will start. So let's see a quick demo on how things work for this. So I'm sure by now you know that Windows Azure is accessible from the Windows Azure Management Portal. So right now I am on the browser. I have already logged in into the management portal. The URL of the management portal is manage.windowsazure.com. You can see that highlighted on the screen. The people who have access to it can enjoy this services at free for now. People who don't have access to Azure, let me take a moment to tell you, you can go to windowsazure.com and you can use a free trial option where you can get a free access using your live ID. So if you see here, I have accessed my Windows Azure portal, that is manager.windowsazure.com, using my live ID. So you can see you have options like networks, and you have options like virtual machines, which are focused for today's webinar. So as I said, let's go to virtual network, and here on this virtual network you can go ahead and create a new virtual network in this. So this is a clean slate which I'm starting from, so that you get a complete overview. So I can create a virtual network from here, or I have a new option from where I can go ahead and create a virtual network. So here you see multiple options as well. You can create a virtual network by importing the configuration file. So we'll talk about this a bit later. You can also register a DNS server, which can be used to give and connect to your local network as well. So if you see a custom create option, so let me do that. So I'm giving a name to my virtual network. Now Windows Azure is into various data centers across the globe. So I choose Southeast Asia is where my virtual network should get created. So I'm using this name, which should be unique again, and then I'm choosing a region where my virtual network should be created. Then you have to create an affinity group where you can specify all the components into one single region. So I can, if I have an existing affinity group, I can use that, or I can create a new affinity group so that all my components of this remain into a same zone. So this is what my I've given some name to the affinity group. So let's move ahead, and here's where you can start. If you remember, I spoke about you having a control of specifying the private address space of what you want. So you can create your own address space, and also you can create a subnets. So let's do that. So you can choose what kind of IP type you want. I'll choose these segments, and I can specify how many IP addresses do I want to reserve. So for now, let me say I will go with some starting IP address and say, okay, I want to reserve 16 IP addresses ranging from this to this. If needed, I can also create subnets. So for hosting and deploying my applications, I can say this is my web subnet, where I can choose, okay, out of this address range, I create one subnet which will have the IP restrictions from this. Second, I can have another IP range. Automatically it will take the next range. So if you notice this, here is where I can choose the IP address range, and I can also choose what kind of segments I want. So here I have selected IP range for 16 addresses and created two subnets of 8 addresses each. Moving ahead, if needed, I can choose the name of the DNS server. and then I can specify what is the IP address that I want to provide to my DNS. Now you may want to choose this option if you want that this DNS server should be used to configure to your local network as well. So here is where I have started creating a virtual network. The virtual network will be initialized, and this is the group that I have mentioned, and you will see you have the virtual network getting ready for our use. If you move on this, you can get to know on that virtual network, for a particular virtual network, what are the subnets, what is the DNS server, and all those details you can get through it. Similarly, if your virtual network is getting connected to a specific local network, you can also add a local network and then use this DNS server options to go ahead and connect to your local network. So what I'm going to do now is, once my virtual network is ready, I'm going to export these settings on my local machine. Now if you recollect, I mentioned there are multiple options. You can create a virtual machine from an existing configuration file. So I did not create configuration file from scratch. You very well can do that, but if you already have a template, so which means I can use this as a setting and download the virtual network settings, and that becomes my network file. So I can export this. I can export network configuration to a local machine. And if you see this, let me open this network configuration.xml file. I'll save it on my desktop, and then I'll open it from here. If you see this, what are settings we had done, including the DNS server entry, what are the address space which I have used, what are the subnets that I have used, all this gets used or saved as a network configuration file. So when you want to create a new network, what basically you can do is you can import and browse this configuration file, assume it's modified, updated, and your virtual network gets created from the network configuration file as well. So you have this option. If you don't want to go with this, you have a wizard-based option where you can go ahead and create a virtual network based on the way I did it. So your virtual network is ready. It is created for you now, and you can start using it. If you see the details, here is what you have. So you have a virtual network ID that have got created, all these address spaces that we have, what is the DNS server. So all these details are present now on the network. You may not appreciate it now, but you'll appreciate it much more when we start hosting a network component. When I say network component, I mean a virtual machine onto this network. So this is one part, and a very easy part of how you create or delete or export your virtual network. Assume now it's ready. Let's move on to the next topic for today, and it was virtual machines.